Hi, my name's Mark Bartol with Bebo Analytics. Um, I went to see Beto O'Rourke um, the other day, Tuesday, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he had a town hall, and he spoke very eloquently, and in some cases he threw a couple curse words in there, which cussing has a place here and there, but I don't know that I favor it as far as a politician to say it. I liked Walz pretty good when Harris and Walz was doing it, but Walz would throw some expletives here and there, and I just didn't necessarily think that it helped him, to be honest with you. But at any rate, yeah. Um, the event held, I'd say around 400 people showed up, um, and majority white, of course. And, um, his speech covered, you know, Abraham Lincoln and the civil rights movement and so on. He mentioned John Lewis, and which John Lewis March was the Thursday after the Tuesday. I went in my local area on the Thursday, which I'll probably do a video on that as well. Um, but anyway, what I got out of it, he's not running for election yet. He might. I suppose he didn't mention it at all. He was just doing a reach out town hall, see what people were thinking. And he mentioned a few things that people were thinking in other places. In reality, it was actually his first stop on his tour, but he's listened to other people. He does listen to what people are thinking. And so, some of the views that he was bringing up, some economic issues he had brought up, but nothing major. Any major, like look forward. Actually, he was actually pretty pessimistic of what the future looks like, which he's not far from wrong. Um, People, I think the voters are just they're not. The ones that are for Trump just don't really think that there's any damage being done. They're happy they got their guy. They're happy with the dictator of Trump because they're his guy. But they don't see the destruction of the Constitution. They don't see the destruction of political will, and they don't see the failures of, of of robbing the poor and giving to the rich. They don't see it for some reason. And then the rest of the people that do see um, are in absolute horror. And the thing that stuck out to me, I can't go through all the questions, but most all of the questions though were basically had to do with social um, issues and LBGQ, and an African American person had commented that the Democrats had not done enough for the African American community. Now, I'm not sure what all or where she's coming from with that. We were in Charlotte at the time. Charlotte's seems to be pretty active in the African American community, I would think. I'm not African American, so I wouldn't know, but I know Joe Biden pushed. He actually was influential in putting two African American judges on the Supreme Court. Uh, Clarence Thomas being one of them, which is very, very sad. And then the one that he put on, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. But at any rate, African American woman, Supreme Court. So that seems to be quite a bit. 13% of the population of the United States is African American. 13% are Hispanic, Latino, and then there's others, and then there's 73% of the population that is white. Now, that being said, over 90% of the people at the Beto O'Rourke, which, Beto O'Rourke is white himself, so you can't expect too much people of color. Bernie Sanders had a problem getting people of color to show up as well. But at any rate, demographically, there was more white people than what a normal demographic would be. And there were some veterans that were very upset about democracy there. That's being destroyed. It's not what they went to war for. But the African American that spoke, saying about the Democrat not doing enough, kind of set me back a little bit, because I've marched in many marches, Martin Luther King, Black Lives Matter, and time of this video, I went ahead and went to the John Lewis March as well. Been to No King's March, and so on. And so, Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, most of her staff were African American. In North Carolina, we lost some seats. Democrats lost seats. They went from 7 House members for the U.S. House to 4. And we've got the North Carolina House and North Carolina Senate. And demographically, we've got the percentage is very high for African American representation. So there are a lot of African American representatives of the Democratic Party that are African American. And so, if the Democratic Party is not doing enough, I'm not sure where they're lacking. Now, as far as the Republican Party, how much can we say they've been doing for the African American community? Now, there is some African American senators and House members that are Republican, and what are they doing for the African American community? I'm not sure. The African American president, the first ever, two terms, Barack Obama, 8 years Democrat in the White House, African American. What has he done for the African American community during those 8 years? I can't say. Al Sharpton could not say. He said he could not say anything against the first black president. So I'm assuming he didn't do enough. And the lady's probably right. Now, what does she want exactly? I think reparations was mentioned somewhere in there. But, and slavery, was a lot of slave labor, was used to build this country. The churches, at least half the churches in my town that I live in, North Carolina, were built by the backs of African Americans. That being said, other than the reparation thing, which again, Democrats can't get anything done unless Republicans help them. So, like for instance, Nancy Pelosi had passed 300 bills in the House that never made it on the Senate floor when Mitch McConnell was leader of the Senate. So Mitch McConnell since 1985 has been basically the party of no candidate, no to everything. Except for defense spending, is basically no to everything. Anything social is no. And the North American Free Trade Agreement, though, was also voted for by Republicans. Republicans voted for NAFTA, House and Senate. And I'm not just saying it. It's you can look it up. You can look it up, and I encourage you to, because it's interesting to see who voted for NAFTA. John Boehner, that used to be House Majority Leader and Minority Leader, voted for NAFTA, and he was from Ohio, right? How many jobs were lost in Ohio to NAFTA? And he voted for it. The two Senate Democrats from California voted against NAFTA. Democrats voted against NAFTA. Most Democrats voted against NAFTA. If it was not for the Republicans voting for NAFTA, NAFTA would never have passed, because Democrats are not for it. And but it gets locked on to Bill Clinton, and they just assume every Democrat voted for it, but they did not. And so with Beto O'Rourke the talking of the African American person discussing the fact that not enough's being done, a lot is not being done, and economically is the best way to help everybody out. Now the Poor People Campaign with Bishop Barber was picked up, in which case Martin Luther King had started that Poor People's Campaign back in the 60s. And so Bishop Barber from Raleigh, North Carolina, has picked up the cause, and he has a Moral Monday every Monday. He has a press conference and talks stuff trying to help people, be aware of the fact that there are many poor people in this country that need political help. We need the help, and we don't need to be cutting stuff. Trump's doing the exact opposite, and many of the people that voted for Trump are saying, yeah, go ahead, do it, for whatever reason. They've got their issues that have nothing to do with their own food on their table, apparently, that are more important than food on the table issues. But giving rich money doesn't seem like it should be a practical thing to do when you're cutting food from the needy, and education, and cutting programs across the world. $9 billion was cut in helping the world with all kinds of things. Millions of people around the world are going to be suffering from the fact of $9 billion measly dollars. The defense spending went up $149 billion. So 9 of that $149 billion is just like transferred from people's mouths, from vaccines for polio and across the world, and all kinds of things that are, the U.S. has done the positive in the world. USAID, food programs to people in starving countries, and we've got starving people in this country. And yeah, there's the failures of the African American community, but there's also the failures of the white community as well. The poor whites have suffered as well. $15 minimum wage would be go a long way in helping all the people on the bottom. Because $7.25 an hour is the current federal minimum wage, which is ridiculous, right? That was, I think Obama had put that in place, $7.25. But since then, it hasn't gone up at all, and but some states and some cities have gone and raised the rates, and you know, it just seems hard to believe that anybody makes $7.25 an hour. But obviously, the poor states, poor red states, of course, probably have that wage somewhere. But you know, there's no mention of raising it, other than there was a $15 minimum wage in a bill under Joe Biden that he pulled out because he wanted to please Manchin from West Virginia, that's currently not a senator anymore. And you know, West Virginia, you know, where did they get any help from that? They got no help. Now, coal mine production is going to be increased in order to try and get some coal producing facilities back up and running again, and I guess they'll have to try and, but they'll cost a lot of money. There again, the cost, I don't know if they'll do it or not. A lot of the power companies, you know, they took them offline because they didn't want to spend the money to fix them either, but they went to wind and solar. But now the subsidies for wind and solar will be cut. You know, it's an economic issues that help African American communities more than anything, and it also helps white communities. And you know, there's over 140 million people in this country that are living below the poverty line, and that's a ridiculous amount. COVID had brought half of child poverty out of child poverty, and it seems crazy to think, but it was because of those little measly little checks that were sent out during the COVID thing that gave enough food and shelter for the kids that they got them out of poverty. Half. Now, I don't know why Joe Biden didn't continue that program. He didn't offer it. Like, you know, it's like, well, the Republicans won't go for it. It was like, well, why didn't you even ask? And that could have helped, you know. Now, Republicans, you know, they didn't ask. They didn't say. They got the poor red states. Why didn't they ask? 18 of the bottom 20 are poor states. Education, poverty, you know, the ones that are going to hurt the most by the Trump Doge crap are the poor red states. They're going to be suffering big time. And they're going to find out real quick. Even the Medicaid too. I mean, there's no end to the suffering that's going to be going on very soon. Inflation, you know, it's funny. They're talking about inflation. You know, it was like at the best it was 9%, like for a month or two, and then it dropped and it dropped. You know, it was like 4.5%. It's like, oh my gosh, you know. I mean, imagine what 500% inflation is. Imagine what 100% inflation is. 200% inflation. Many countries around the world had suffered those types of situations. Wheelbarrows full of money and all this crap. And you know, like 4%, it's nothing, especially when it was compared to the fact of coming out of going from zero because there was just no economy because everything shut down. You know, to get it back going again, you know, you know, everyone went right back to work mostly. So it shot everything up, the needs of gas to get to work when they weren't using gas to go to work. But, you know, economically, the best way to help African Americans out is jobs. You got to give them jobs. And a lot of African Americans did get jobs during COVID because there was so many jobs available, open, you know, that every African American that applied wound up being hired because there was a demand for labor, period. Now, it just shows you, too, that even with the labor laws of having African Americans or to be allowed to have work, too, it's clearly people were denied jobs because, of their color. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Because there was a lot more African American people working at that time than there is now. Basically, COVID's over, and boom, back to status quo. Yeah, black people don't get hired much. People don't hire them. So there needs to be more transparency in that. But the best way to do it is to have more jobs available than there is people to fill them, and that drives wages up as well. But the immigrant labor is also a way to supply jobs, and there needs to be a vision in this country. At the Beto O'Rourke thing, there was no vision. There was basically skepticism of the future, to be honest with you. It wasn't it was basically, you need to go out and support the candidates. You need to go out and support the candidates. It's basically, I get 20 emails a day about Democrats wanting money, and go to your rich buddies. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. And then also come up with a vision of what's going to help the Americans. Trump says let's bring manufacturing back, but who's going to work the factories if you're kicking the labor out of the country? He doesn't understand that we're a nation of immigrants, and a lot of the immigrants he's kicking out are the ones that were working. The ones putting roofs on homes, ones building some of his resorts, or cutting his grass at his golf courses, or cleaning his toilet, whatever. They went after the illegal criminal. They got a few thousand of those, deported them, and now it's like they're having a hard time finding criminals, so they're going to the courthouses where they're trying to get citizenship or trying to get their green card situation. They went a little over because it's hard. They get overbooked on immigration officers that they can't get a date that's within the time frame of their expiration of their visas. And that's why a lot of them will go a couple months over, is because of the fact that they got too many. They're overbooked. They don't have enough immigration officers to process. If they had more immigration officers to process, it wouldn't be a problem. But see, that's the thing. There's all these different solutions to the problems that are at hand. None were really given at the Beto O'Rourke town hall. I think it was more or less he was listening to what people's needs were. And for the most part, people's needs were, obviously the immigration problem has been a problem. It was more like democracy, the democracy of it all that was at risk. And it's true. The Supreme Court in general, in my opinion, the Republican judges said the Constitution basically means nothing. Trump can do whatever he wants. That's what they've said, basically. Because all the guidelines of what the Constitution showed, they disregarded completely. They just disregarded it, Congress doesn't even do anything. They just go ahead and allow Trump to do what he wants. And so even a lot of the Republican Congress people were like, we can't do this, we shouldn't do this, we don't, it's not going to be good for us, this, and then they vote for it. And even though they know it's bad. The Murkowski, from the senator from Alaska, even said, It's a terrible bill. The House needs to change it. I hated voting for it. Then why did she vote for it? You know, it's like me. Most of the people that I voted for didn't even win, right? But I felt good to go to sleep at night because I voted for who I wanted. You know, so you know, a representative, a senator, U.S. senator, most of the time, 100 U.S. senators, right? They're like 100 independent people that decide on their own convictions and so on and so forth, what they think is best for the country and everything else. So she voted for something that she didn't think was best for the country. Why? You know, I mean, if there was such a bad candidate, you know, and of course you can't blame her 110%, but I definitely blame her conviction. Like, at least if you're a Republican that gets convicted, I mean, that has the conviction convicted. That's funny. Anyway, the conviction of what they believe, it's like they do believe that the rich people should get even more money in their pockets, even though they have no place to put it other than Bitcoin, and to take the money away from the poor people. Then they feel that way. Then that's the way they feel. But when you have someone that says, no, I don't believe this, I think it's terrible and everything else, and then votes for it anyway, that's just a lousy candidate, in my opinion. But yeah, so, but to blame for a lot of the stuff that's going on too, for me, mostly it's the Supreme Court, because they're the ones that are supposed to abide by the Constitution and apply the Constitution to the laws of the land and to apply it to the President and the Congress as well, right? But instead, they decided that no, they would rather go on fancy trips fixed on the rich people that put Trump in office. Yeah, that's what they'd rather do. And I think they should be impeached. And so, so yeah, it wasn't a good town hall, in my opinion, other than the fact that it exposed to me that the Democrat voters that showed up at the Beto O'Rourke thing was more concerned with social issues than economic issues, but failing to understand that those social issues are there because of economic issues. And you know, as far as the LGBTQ community, you know, Beto O'Rourke even stated that it's like 1% of the population, and you know, it's difficult to get people to back people like that. You know, when they're a small group of people, but to make it that they're being targeted, you know, is unfair. And the Hispanic community, of course, too, being targeted. And I found that there was, I don't know that there was that many Hispanic people at all in the town hall of 400. It was majority white and basically like middle class white, right? Educated white. You know, a lot of educated white people are in the mindset of trying to be good and trying to do the right thing, and that's where I don't think I was alone in being perturbed by the African American woman talking about the Democrats not doing enough, because many of the people in that room are people that are concerned about the African American community, and actually were very you know, supportive of her question after she spoke, and Beto's response that was, you know, yeah, we could do more, you know, but he wasn't going to harp on it like we really sucked at it. He didn't say that, but, and you know, he was being political about it, I'd say, but everyone in the room seemed to be pretty supportive of the African American woman's thought process that the Democrats aren't doing enough, and I find it perturbing only because of the fact that I don't know how much more can be done. I mean, it's it's the economics, I think, that makes it more of a need to make all boats lift up as best as they can. And but there again, the Democrat areas, majority of the areas are controlled by the Democrats in the cities, and most of the people that are in those cities that represent the African American communities are African Americans themselves. And so, the John Lewis March that I went to, there was at least 90% white. And of course, my area is 87% white. And there was less than 10 people out of over 100 people that were there that were African American on a John Lewis March. So, although I talked to one lady, she said that they had a big gathering at the local church downtown. Down in their neighborhoods, and so they had their own gig at the church, and it's fitting. And so we for 2 hours were on a roadside with signs, and we were able to get a lot of support. And I tell you, the county I'm in is a good 75% Trump support, and I mean Trump support. It's not just Republican. And we had a lot more favoritism than I thought we would get, to be honest. And we did have a No Kings March downtown, and it was pretty big. I was surprised then too, because the other towns around us too, some a little more liberal than others, were having the same No Kings thing as well. So I was impressed by the response for the John Lewis thing too, because it was on a Thursday night, and mostly white, and educated white. But the thing is that why are the 73% white? The majority of the whites voted Trump, and why did they vote Trump? Because they weren't getting what they needed from the Democrats, obviously, right? And so, but like the Democrats have tried for the $15 minimum wage. It was one of Pelosi's bills, believe it or not, $15 minimum wage. She threw it in there, but maybe she knew it was going to be killed by Mitch McConnell anyway. 300 bills that, were to help middle class and lower class people, and the Republicans stopped it. But Democrats get blamed for not doing nothing. And it's like, how much more do you have to do? I mean, how much more do you have to do to say it's not the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault nothing gets done? Party of No since 1985 is the Republican Party. So anyway, majority of the Trump voters though are fed up with the government, 40 years of bull crap and everything else. But they don't blame the Republicans for it. They blame all the politicians for it. And so what happens is you have the Democrats getting blamed, and Democrats just accepting the blame for some reason, They don't know how to defend themselves. And so it's not enough to say, well, Republicans want tax cuts for the rich, and Democrats don't. And poor people feel that the Democrats have failed them. How does that work? I don't know. I don't understand the narrative being so miscued. It doesn't make sense to me. But at any rate, so what did the Democrats have to do to try and win back the House and Senate, right? So what do they have to do? I mean, what can you do? Promise tax cuts for the rich? I mean, I don't know what the Republican voter wants, right? That's what I would want. I want to know what the Republican voter wants. Well, we don't like government. We don't want Democrats. You know. So, what about food on the table? Yeah, we want food on the table. What about child care? For your kid when it's born. Yeah, we want that. What about jobs? Do you want a job? Yeah, we want a job. What about a good paying job? Yeah, we want a good paying job. These are all Democrat issues here. They're all Democrat. And do the Republicans want any of that? Do the Republican leadership offer minimum wage? Do they offer, child assistance? No, they're taking it away. They're taking away all of it. When Trump ran the first time, he said $7.25 an hour minimum wage was too high. Like, come on, No. Now, Beto O'Rourke had brought up the housing need. When I was there, my response was I was going to say something, but I chose not to because I was more interested in listening to what other people were thinking. What are Democrat voting people thinking? What are they thinking? What is their concern? And I found that their concerns were, there's social issues and everything, but the social issues are, they're not what the typical white person's looking at. They're not the issues of what a typical Republican wants. And if you're not going to get the white vote, if you're not going to get the Republican vote, then you're not going to get any votes. I mean, you're not going to win. It's a losing battle. If you go for the LGBTQ 1%, go with the African American 13%, you go with the Hispanic 13%, you put them all together into one box and say, this is it. You still got 73% white people. Now, part of that group is me, along with the 90% of the John Lewis, the 90-some% at the Beto O'Rourke people. But what is it that, that brings those people out? And it is educated white. They're basically educated white. Now, I have my Poor People's Campaign shirt on to the John Lewis one. But everybody there was college educated. I talked to just about every single one of them. And, at the end of the day, why doesn't the uneducated white person care about the democracy or about the African American poverty or their uh, not being hired because of the color of their skin, or why, the poor white person considers every Hispanic person a criminal. Why, what makes them think all that? And, I always say Fox News, which, it's not all the time Fox News, but for the most part, and Donald Trump himself, he established himself as a bully, and has bullied and put bullies in charge. And so bullies are now like top shelf. This is what America's all about. We're going to be a bully. We are the bully of the world. We will bully you to pay tariffs. 10% tariff minimum is what's going on. Britain has already agreed to 10% tariffs. Europe's going to be at 30% on August 1st, tariffs, and China. So Europe and China, I like Aldi's. That's European grocery, so that's going to be ugly for me. I love European food. Then you got China, where we get most of our stuff's made, including MAGA stuff. And so inflation 4% down to 2.7%. It actually had gone down to 2.3%, but it's up to 2.7% on the last reading. The next one's going to definitely be higher. It can't be lower, right? There's no way it could be lower because the tariffs are starting to hit. And I already got hit at Walmart 20% higher in my food costs of the same products that I had a month ago. Same products were 20% higher at Walmart. And so, your food costs that much. I got 30% increase on my taxes on my house. City tax was 30% higher. County tax 30% higher on my mortgage. And then my insurance is going to hit. So you tell me that's not going to cause at least 5 to 10% inflation on top of 2.7, because this is just now hitting, right? North Carolina, 10th largest state, boom, boom, boom. I'm telling you, people don't know what inflation is, but they're fixing to find out. They're a little crying about the little single-digit inflation. It's like I was like, what are you talking about? Single-digit inflation? My God, what's wrong with you people? Gas prices are less, just almost $4 or whatever. It's like when Joe Biden released the oil reserves, he prevented $6 a gallon gas. But it's like all in messaging. It's like, oh, the guy goes to church on Sundays, but Trump's on the golf course on Sundays. Joe Biden, does he believe in abortion? His party does, but he personally does not believe in abortion. He doesn't believe in abortion. Joe Biden does it. But that messaging never comes out. Meanwhile, Trump, you think he's for abortion? Yes, he's for 12 weeks. 12 weeks, look it up. But all these algorithms on phones, right? These phones is how the algorithm of where you locked in on. It's like, oh, Trump's against abortion on the Republican algorithm, and then he's 12 weeks on the liberal algorithm. So it's funny how you can't please everyone, but with algorithms, and if you're politically, play both sides of the ball all the time, say yes and no all the time, you win. It just depends on your audience. On Fox News, you're against abortion. On social media or CNN or whatever, you go, yeah, I believe in 12 weeks. Right? Or you get asked that question, 12 weeks. you reluctantly say, yeah, it's horrible. But then on Fox, it's like, yeah, I got the Roe versus Wade overturned. President was overturned by a bunch of people that testified that they would never go against precedent. And they went against precedent on that. They went against precedent on some other stuff, and they're fixing to do some more. Soon they're just going to rip up the Constitution, burn it, and go on a permanent vacation on some billionaire's yacht somewhere. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, honestly, what do you need a Supreme Court if you have dictatorship? You don't need them. We already don't have Congress. Congress is already zero. And that's why the Beto O'Rourke thing should have been, we all need to get out there and vote Democrat. We need to get everyone up. We need to knock on every single door and say, look, if you want a democracy, you got to get Democrats back in the office at least for one term, at least in one two-year term. Get the term limits in, whatever. For 2 years, just get in there and say goodbye. We want our Constitution back. We want the ability to say no. Okay? We want the ability to say no to a dictator. I mean, what happens if Hillary Clinton's in there as a dictator? I mean, come on, people. I mean, look, the Roman Empire. How many Caesars were there? Right? There are hundreds of Caesars. So, you know, some good, some bad, whatever, you know. So, what you have to do is, you know, you got to show some kind of vision. Now, he wasn't running, but why is he doing the town halls? For the most part, he's just trying to listen to what the constituents want. And what I found was the constituents don't know what they want. Not really. They don't know how to get there. That's why they have to have leaders lead them. And that's where I think the leader needs to be there. Now, Michelle Obama is not a politician. She doesn't want to be a politician. Blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Well, she needs to be the next president because she's the only one that's got that it factor that will push everyone back and say, look, we need to get back to decency, right? Even though it's like, oh, Obama was such a terrible person. I got more beef with Obama than any Republican could ever have a beef with Obama. I mean, what did Obama ever do to a Republican white man? What did he do? Did he take their guns away from them? I don't know if he did the bump stock or not. I think he gave them the bump stock. If I'm not mistaken, he was the deporter-in-chief. He was getting rid of MS-13 people, and that's why they call him the deporter-in-chief. He had ICE raids going on like crazy at the end of his second term. But he was getting the criminals, right? And Trump went around and got the criminals for the first week or two. But now it's like there's no more criminals. Now we got to go after people that are trying to be a citizen, or get some people that are already a citizen. We'll get them off as a citizen because they jaywalked or something. Get rid of Rosie O'Donnell, even though she was born in this country. Then whatever. So if you're a registered Democrat, we'll get rid of you. We'll deport you. Whatever. I mean, that's pretty much, authoritarian 101, But at any rate, so voting. You got to vote Democrat. In this case, vote blue no matter who. But, I hated that saying because of the fact that it does matter, right? You don't want somebody that's not going to do anything for you. They're just going to be like, yeah, I don't know, I'll just go in there. And that's why I'm a little worried about Beto O'Rourke on that, right? Like, it didn't seem like yeah, he can talk a little bit. Like, he's a good talker, right? But can he lead? And you need someone to lead. And There's a Representative Stansberry from New Mexico. She is something. You ought to look her up. House member, U.S. House member, Stansberry from New Mexico. She is a firecracker, and that's what we need. We need someone that's going to care about Americans, not kick them out of the country, not step on them, not take food out of their mouths and their children's mouths to give to rich people that don't need the money. You know, I mean, billionaires don't need to be trillionaires now. And, you know, I mean, how much money is enough, really? Come on. You know, if you got $10 billion, you shouldn't be able to work anymore. You should say, you know what, you're done, buddy. Good enough. Good job, buddy. Go home. You know, go home. Or go get married in Italy or something. Whatever. Who cares? Get out of here. Let someone else take over. Right? Let someone else be a billionaire. You know, share the wealth a little bit. You know, it's stupid. It's so stupid. It's like the lottery thing's like $500 million or something, 500 million for one person. That's crazy, right? To like win that out of the sun. You know, why not give 10,000 people a bunch of money? You know, make it easier for some people to win a bunch of money that can make their lives better. You know, but the lottery is just a false situation anyway. The odds are so stupid. You're better off gambling on the blackjack table. At any rate, the video was about the Beto O'Rourke outreach and the disappointment for me of how the Democratic voter, as far as the ones that spoke up, have their concerns of their social issues, and it's understandable, right? But in order to win an election, you got to get the people that are Republican to vote, and for a reason. Like I said before, if you talk to a Republican and say, "Do you think, you know, $7.25 minimum wage should be higher?" It's like, yes. Child care for newborn, of course, right? Of course. You know, do you want your kid to go to get an education, or do you want them to not go to school at all? And surely they would say, I want them to go to school, you know. Or there is homeschool, right? But there's still, you have to have a program of the teaching. There has to be a structure there. And then, you know, do you want a job? It's like, of course, you know. And that's why I like my jobs book, middle class job book. Middle class jobs. It has all the different problems that we have in this country, and it can be solved by creating middle-class jobs. Having like the COPS program that Bill Clinton had in his one of his terms, he had 100,000 police officers. The crime bill, I believe, had it in 1983 crime bill, because there was a lot of crime at that time, and so 100,000 police officers, middle-class jobs, were offered by the federal government. So imagine 100,000 nurses, 100,000 teachers to be added to the budget of, you know, being supplemented by the federal government to help communities that needed more help. And you know, Alabama, 35% of their education is supplemented by the federal education department that Trump's cutting. So if they don't get that 35% in Alabama, I mean, colleges, community colleges, high schools, elementary schools, they all lose. All of them lose. And to get the tax revenue from the local, like North Carolina, what they want to tax me more I mean, I got property tax increase, I got food increase, and gas is going to definitely go up because they got to make their money too, and they got to make their money. So then on top of that, increase my state income tax, and there's just no end. So that very little bit of federal money that was kicked in for federal emergencies like hurricanes and so on, I mean, we just had the West North Carolina got wiped, Asheville. All the roads to Asheville were closed. There was no way to get to Asheville other than by airplane. And so they opened up, but imagine that there's no money, we're sorry, and there's no help, and Asheville would still be locked into you can only fly in or fly out. I mean, that's crazy talk. And so, and we're talking about a major city here, Asheville. It's small but big. It's but at any rate, the voter needs to wake up and understand what is needed foremost is that we have to win the elections, and economics is the best way to win elections if you can get on board with what Democrats and Republicans want. Those are the issues that you handle. And most of that is just basic family stuff, whether you're gay or not, of having a job, having a house, basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs stuff. Just base it on that, and you'll win elections every time. Cooper won 2 elections, and Josh Stein 3 elections in a row that Trump won North Carolina. Democrat governor won all 3 times as well. So there is hope. You just have to have the right message and the right attitude on what you are running on. And the voter needs to understand that that's what they need to be pushing is economic issues so that they can get the people in there. The social issues can work themselves out through other things, right? As an asterisk of who's better with social issues, Democrats or Republicans. And yes, maybe the Democrats could do better for the African American community. But the best way they could do it is economics, right? Get them jobs, get the pay increase, the minimum wage increase, like the Poor People's Campaign of Martin Luther King. He fought for more wages for the garbage strikers, and that's how you do it. My name is Mark Bartold. I just formed Bebo Analytics. Thank you very much. You have a great day, and vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure they got the right address, phone number, and all that stuff, because they'll find anything to get you to not vote. Thank you.